You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derrick, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derrick, and I am joined, as always, by your co-host, Kevin. Alex, unfortunately, not going to be able to make it with us tonight, but Kevin and I have got a fun show planned for y'all, and it is going to be a blast, and I cannot wait. This is one of my favorite episodes every year when we get into this thing, simply because of the content we get to talk about, and it's all like, I don't want to give too much away, but we've got a lot in store for you, a lot of fun and a lot of chance to play along with the boys here as well. Kevin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. This is the final episode of, I guess, the season, right? I mean, everything after this, we turn the page. We start looking forward to what the 2022 fantasy football season has to offer for us. So, yeah, the end of another one. We turn the page after this week, but man, am I excited for this week, because you're right. This is a lot of fun. Being able to do different types of things for this particular game, just as Las Vegas and the betting community, if you will, kind of sets it up. So I'm super excited to see how you and I are going to spar off here.
Yeah, this one's always a lot of fun. And guys, I'm going to tell you right now, if you have not visited goodoldboysff.com, you want to head over there, because that's where we've got this game set up, and or one of our games set up for this week, and it'll be a lot of fun. And as well as, you can find us on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at goodoldboysff. Shoot us a line, tag us with something if you want to hop into any of these things. We'll help direct you where to go, all of those kind of good things as well. So, but Kevin, this one is always a lot of fun. Like, this is the episode that I look forward to, leading up to it from the standpoint of everything that we've kind of got in store, all of that. So obviously it is Super Bowl weekend. There's lots of things to talk about. Not, unlike most shows where we're, during the season, we're talking about what just happened and all the recaps and all that. We're going to skip right past the Pro Bowl, because anybody that watched that, I feel sorry for you. That was one that I certainly do not tune into. I might catch a play here or there every year, but generally just do not tune into that one.
Did you watch the skills competition?
Yes.
That was pretty cool. Like, I thought some of the touchdown catches were not as highly rated as the judges were giving them credit for. They're definitely trying to pump that up a little bit, but there were some pretty cool ones. So yeah. I thought the skills competition, was pretty good. The game itself, I sat down. I was watching TV as we were getting ready to eat some lunch, and then the game came on, and my kids wanted to sit down and watch it, because I'm being a good dad, and I'm grooming them the right way to love football. So we sat down, and we were talking about how it was a scrimmage, and it's like, what's an exhibition? I was like, it's like a practice game. Like, it doesn't really count for anything.
Right.
And so we were getting into it, and my wife, God bless her, she tolerates so much football in my life. She sits down and she goes, yeah, when you said it was a scrimmage, I didn't quite believe that. But is this even actually a scrimmage? I said, that is the contention that the national, viewing audience always has. Like, what is this? Because I think you could count on one hand the number of players who actually fell on the ground the entire game.
Right.
But the coolest thing,
I've seen flag football games with a lot more contact in them than that had.
Heck yeah. I thought the coolest thing was what they were doing for all the charities.
Mm-hmm.
I really did think that was a cool aspect, seeing what their cause was and what their charity was for, and some of the backstory behind some of the players. And, especially for, the first part of it, right, those defensive players getting those pick sixes and then really being able to kind of give to their charity on top of them, what I'm sure they do on a normal basis that part was pretty cool. The game itself, not so much, but the cause behind it, and the fact that these guys are able to promote different charities and why they want to endorse these causes and everything else. I thought that was a nice little touch for, people who to think that these guys are all just spoiled rich, meatheads.
Yeah, that was definitely very, very nice there to be able to watch some of that and see some of that. And, it all goes towards a good cause and all of those types of things. But as far as the game itself, yeah, I mean, there's kind of enough said, I think, with that one, and we can kind of move on from what is the Pro Bowl shenanigans there. Yeah, that's one of those that I think you're right. I think, bring in some of more of those skill competitions, bring in some of those types of things, because those I think will have are more fun to watch, more enjoyable to watch, and ultimately have a bigger impact for the viewing audience, more so than the game itself there. But yeah, so let's go ahead and let's just kind of get in here into the main slate, the main event here. Obviously, Super Bowl is coming up here this weekend. That's what this whole show is about. We're going to be talking about the previews. We're going to be going through a bunch of different prop type of things. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different different places out there as well. We're going to try some new things out here as well. And of course, we've got the very fun question that we were talking and teasing last week as far as our debate style question towards the end of the show there. But Kevin, what are your thoughts here about the big game here coming up on Sunday?
I love the Super Bowl matchup because I don't have a dog in the race that I'm rooting for or against. And so for the first time in seemingly forever, I can sit back and enjoy the Super Bowl for what it is, right? It is a final competition between two squads of, of players and coaches and staffs that have just kind of poured everything into this season. A little bit of lady luck on their side, absolutely, but you need some of that. And then overcoming the trials and tribulations of a long NFL season, even longer this year with the extra regular season game, and just being able to see that kind of come to a head. Like I love both teams' offensive skill position players. They're just really fun to watch. You have the savvy veteran and Matt Stafford finally getting over the hump, his first year out of Detroit, and he's able to make a Super Bowl, his first Super Bowl in his 13th season. And then you have Joe Burrow coming off the gruesome injury last year. We weren't quite sure how he was going to look coming into this year to start with. Reconnected with Jamar Chase, and the defense really kind of ratcheted things up here in the playoffs and did a good job of shutting down the number 1 seed Titans. And in the second half, you're the number 2 seed Kansas City Chiefs. So it's I think it's gonna be a close game. I think I think Cincinnati covers the 4.5. But I have the Rams on the money line. So great game, close game, but I think the Rams are able to pull this one out.
Yeah, I think you're probably pretty close on that one. And this is one too, that one of the things that I've kind of gone through a couple of different narratives, a couple of different ways of looking at this game. And I've tended to land more with what you're saying there, that it's going to be a close game. I do have the Bengals covering there, but it was one that I grappled with just kind of looking at a few things there as far as the offense defensive line goes, and that trench play kind of goes there. Ultimately there, right? Like that is one of the things that it took me a long time to kind of come around on Cincinnati's offensive line. That front defensive line of the Rams can cause some havoc there. We have seen Cincinnati's offensive line give up a ton of pressure throughout the playoffs here. And ultimately, they've managed to prevail on that one. But it's one of those that when I first started looking at this thing and started going through some of the matchups and breaking it down player by player matchup wise, I was very concerned that we were almost going to get kind of a repeat of what we saw last year in the Super Bowl, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just were eating Patrick Mahomes' lunch all day, every day. We're constantly in the backfield, constantly in there. And, some of that has to do with the fact that you've got Aaron Donald that you've got to double team him more often than not, right? Like you can't just put a guard on him and let the guard hang out to dry, because he'll get through on that one. Von Miller, obviously, right? Like was a as a Super Bowl MVP in the past, has had a bit of a resurgence as far as this season goes after the move to LA. A lot of that has to do with the fact that he is not having to be the primary pass rusher on that. And when you're able to line him up or line Aaron Donald up on the opposite side of that, he's seeing a lot more one-on-one type of coverages. So that was one of those I was very concerned about that they were going to be putting a lot of pressure on that. But, kind of looking through this thing a little bit more. So Cincinnati, when Joe Burrow's back there, he can get the ball out of his hands very quickly. We've seen that happen quite a bit. And this isn't a new thing for him to have a offense or have a defensive line in his face. He has great pocket awareness, has some of that sneaky quickness to get out and extend the pocket there a little bit and to avoid some of those pressures a little bit there. So more so than what we saw last year with Kansas City, where it didn't seem like the the Chiefs really didn't have to deal with that much last year, where they just weren't used to somebody always being in Patrick Mahomes' face to get rid of the ball. Joe Burrow has not had to deal with that one as much because he's been used to getting those pressures there. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm also interested to see some of the matchups on the outside, right? Like we've seen a lot of the media coverage talking about Jamar Chase, talking about Jalen Ramsey there. So that one will be a lot of fun, a lot of interesting deal there. I know that there's this narrative going on in the media that Jalen Ramsey is going to cover him one-on-one and shut him down like he's done with so many great wide receivers in the past, things like that, which don't get me wrong, Jalen Ramsey's an elite type of cornerback out there, but the Rams play almost more zone than anybody else in the NFL, right? Like this is one of those that I can see Jalen Ramsey getting that matchup, but it's going to be an obvious passing down situations. It's not going to necessarily be that he's going to shadow him all over the field. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that because we've seen T. Higgins go off to Tyler Boyd's a great number 3. So I do think Jalen Ramsey is going to see a little bit of everybody, just depending on how the formation presents itself. Obviously, the Bengals are going to try and scheme to get Chase open in certain situations, being the number 1. But I do think that T. Higgins has a sneaky chance to kind of outshine Chase in this particular game, just because so much of the focus has been on Jamar Chase. I think T. Higgins could really be a sneaky play here to kind of go over the top and help the Cincinnati Bengals bring home the Lombardi.
Yeah, I think you are definitely right there because I think that you'll see – I think you're going to see them try and take Jamar Chase and really kind of limit him a little bit. But we've seen that multiple times in the past when teams try to do that and try and, slow him down, shut him down, take him out of it, that T. Higgins blows up. The one that I'm thinking is going to have a very, very sneaky type of upside there and is a prop bet that I'm not shy about. I'm not shying away from is Tyler Boyd in this situation, right? Like mention the fact that we've got a pass rush that's going to be coming through there. You'll see Joe Burrow maybe try and get the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker, which that's going to benefit a guy like Tyler Boyd very heavily, and his over under on this one's a 40.5 on receiving yards. That's one of those that I saw that one, and I'm kind of liking that one. And that may be one of those that makes it into a one game, same game type of parlay for me on this one. So that one could be a very enticing play. And I see Bill's in the chat here. Welcome in, Bill. Glad to see you. Always a lot of fun to see you. And he's saying that he's rooting for Cincinnati. He supposes he's a Broncos fan here. So are we, and anybody but KC. And then he's also saying that he thinks the Bills were the best team in his opinion. Josh Allen plays with some class. Great coverage this year, Derrick and Kevin. We appreciate those kind words, Bill, and always a lot of fun seeing you in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. So, Kevin, any other thoughts on this game before we start getting into some of the other kind of fun nuggets?
I think you touched on it briefly, right? Like the one thing that keeps Cincinnati from keeping this game close and having it under that 4.5, like I was talking about, is Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, and Von Miller. Like, you got to stop. You got to stop up the middle first, right? Like you cannot let Darnold ruin this game for you as he has so many others. But that veteran presence of winning a Super Bowl and winning the MVP, Vaughn's coaching him up, right? Like, Vaughn is just whispering in his ear the entire time and pumping this guy up. So it is going to be a lot of Rams defensive line, Cincinnati offensive line play that kind of determines how the pace of this game is going to go. I think that Matt Stafford and crew will look normal, right, in offense, especially if he can get into a quick rhythm, find Cooper Kupp a couple times, see if Higbee can kind of get down the seam like he's been doing these last couple games. And, Odell is just chomping at the bit to play in this Super Bowl. So all the way around, I'm super excited about the matchups in this game.
Yes, I would agree on that wholeheartedly. So lots of fun on this one. And again, we're going to be talking about some more fun that we're going to be throwing out there and letting folks get a chance to play with us on this one, because it should be a blast. But right now, we're going to go ahead and head over to a new kind of game that we're wanting to play here. And it's over there on Monkey Knife Fight. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's a lot of fun. Great app. They've got some really cool things going over there. And with this one, right, like we're going to be looking at like a daily fantasy props type of game with this one, right? It's called Touchdown Dance. And with this particular game, you have to pick 3 players that will get the most TDs in a game. And then with that, you also have to select the total number of TDs goal that you're going to pick and the prize that you're looking for there, right? So at 2.5 or more touchdowns, the prize is a 2-time. If you pick that one at 3.5 touchdowns over, would get you a 4 times there, and a 4.5 over would get you a 6 times type of deal. So we're going to pick 3 players here, and they can be the same players. All of that, Kevin and I are going to, we've selected our own players here and do not know what the other person selected. So we'll go through and we'll talk about, what players we're selecting here, give a little blurb as to why, and then we're going to pick our total like where we're looking at as far as what we think the prize total on that would be, or the over touchdown goal would be there. So Kevin, do you want to go ahead and start us off with one, and then I'll go? Do you want me to start it off?
No, I can start us off. I think we all, I guess I'm assuming you and I are on the same page with this, but to start off, I'm going to go with the most obvious one. If I'm picking a player to score at least a touchdown and kind of help propel the baseline of this team, I'm going with Cooper Kupp. Mm-hmm. The guy who always seems to be open. Matt Stafford looks for him all over the field, deep passes, short passes, crossing routes, insides, outsides, quick slants. So Cooper Kupp is going to be the guy that I pick first to anchor my team.
Yep. You and I picked the same guy there to kind of anchor that one and get that ball rolling, right? I look at Cooper Kupp, very reliable. Is Matt Stafford's favorite target when it rolls down and it comes down to it, right? And when you look at it, he has had a touchdown in several of the last few games there, right? Like during the season, had 16 touchdowns in 17 games played, right? Like there, he is a touchdown reliable kind of guy there. 2 touchdowns in his last game, touchdown the game before. So kind of riding that trend and riding what I've seen all season long. So yes, I'm right there with you. I'm going to choose Cooper Kupp to anchor my team there. Let's go ahead and move on to the second.
So the second guy is a guy that I hinted to a little bit earlier. I'm going to go with T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins finds a way into the end zone. He was a little quiet against the Chiefs. There's going to be a lot of attention, a lot of pressure on Jamar Chase. And so because of that, I think Higgins is actually the more reliable touchdown play in this matchup, because he will be the guy that is lesser thought of, shall we say.
Yeah, and I almost went that route too. That was definitely one that I was leaning on heavily to go with kind of my second guy here, but I ended up going with Jamar Chase on this one. And I think that they'll find a way to get him, a target or 2 down there when they get into the red zone. He's that big body contested catch kind of guy there. And has done very, very well, right? Like when you look at it from a touchdown perspective, he led the NFL this season in touchdowns outside the numbers. So, right where he plays, that contested catch type of range, I think that he will find a way to come down with one touchdown in this one. So I'm going to take Jamar Chase in this one, and that's going to lead us to our third player here. Who you going with your third?
I was really torn on this one. I really, really was torn on this one. I'm going with a LA Ram. For the longest time, I thought I was going to go Tyler Higbee. He's been a red zone factor for Stafford lately. He is looking at him down there quite a bit. He's a mismatch for what the Bengals have in their linebacking core. So I was sitting on it, and then I finally moved off of it. And I think the guy who's going to get me a touchdown is OBJ. I think he is going to rise to the occasion and really kind of put his name on the map, if you will, as far as still being a viable wide receiver in the NFL, right? Not being touted as this cancer and this locker room destroyer, T.O. almost, right? Kind of the modern age T.O. in a lot of ways. I think OBJ is going to find himself a nice tutty here in the Super Bowl.
I like it. That was one I also kind of played around with there as well. I ended up going with Joe Mixon simply because Joe Mixon has a soft spot in my heart, as we all know. Coming out of Oklahoma, all that good stuff. But so Joe Mixon's the guy I went with. I had to also figure out a way to put a running back into this one here as well to find a way, as much as you and I preach about the running backs and where we go, building rosters, things like that. Like, I had to find a way to put one running back in this one. So I went with Joe Mixon on this one. It was close between him and Cam Akers, but I do think that Joe Mixon will find a way to get into the end zone there. I like the upside there. So that's going to bring us down here to, you got to pick your touchdown total goal and your, which is going to determine your prize type of, your prize on that one. So what are you looking for as far as total TDs in this game from your three players?
I'm going to go, they're going to cover the 3.5. And I can't tell you which one of these guys is going to get the second touchdown, but I think there's a really good chance that all three of them get one. I just don't know where that's going to land on the second one, but I do think it's going to happen. So I'm going to take the 3.5, over 3.5 touchdowns for the 4 times rewards on this, and see how it shakes out for me. I like my chances.
Well, I like him too. That was one I was kind of grappling with there as well. I was not adventurous as you though, so I ended up settling at 2.5. I think it's pretty safe to say that is it going to surprise me that if Cooper Kupp ends up with 2 tutties on this one, and then I've got to get one from either Jamar Chase or Joe Mixon? I don't think that that's going to surprise me at all if that's how that one shakes out. So I'm going to be a little less adventurous on this one and go with the 2.5 on that total TDs there. So I like it. We'll see how this one ultimately plays out here, and we'll get some answers as we go through here over the weekend and on Sunday. So it'll be a lot of fun out there. And guys, if you got some thoughts about Kevin and I's picks there, go ahead and hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Shoot us go ahead and add us with your comments and your thoughts on this one. Should be a lot of fun. Let us know who you would play instead. Always a blast there. So let's go ahead, and we're going to go ahead and head over to a different kind of game that we've got set up. We did this last year around the Super Bowl and did some props, some fun type of props things out there. And with that, you can go ahead and head on over to the Good Old Boys FF and see if you can see how you're going to go ahead and stack up here with the boys when it comes down to it. You can go ahead and see the website right there with the Good Old Boys FF. You can come right over here where it says games and more, click the Super Bowl fun props, and you can go ahead and fill out the form right in here. So with that, you'll fill out your email so that you can get all of those answers sent to you. You can follow along, all that good stuff. But then you're going to go through, and we've got all sorts of different things here set up, just, not just football, but beyond that as well, right? Like the over-under national anthem, 110 seconds. Kevin, what are your thoughts around this one? You taking the over? You taking the under?
I'm taking the under. The under's hit the last 3 seasons for the national anthem, and I think we're going to see 4 in a row here. So I'm going to take the under of 110 seconds for the national anthem.
Gotcha. I know last year we set the national anthem at 119 and a half. I went back and looked at our notes. And the 3 people doing that one actually went slightly over. It was 217.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it was just over on that one. And that being the case, I think I'm going to go with the under. It's a single artist playing it this year, but that being the case, I'm going to go slightly over on this one. I think we're probably somewhere right about a minute 52 when it's all said and done. So I'm going to take the over, but just barely. That's going to go ahead and move us into the coin toss here. Heads or tails?
Tails never fails.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to be different, and I'm just going to say heads on that one, just so that you and I will be a little different on this one. Let's go ahead and talk about the coin toss winner. Who you got winning the coin toss, the Rams or the Bengals?
Now, when we call, let's see. So the Bengals get to call the coin toss. I'm going to say the Bengals win the coin toss.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go with the I'm going to go ahead and go with the Rams because of the fact that you're calling the Bengals are going to call the tails, which I think they probably will, but it's going to end up heads. So that means the Rams will win that one. We'll go ahead and go that route. All right, let's go ahead and get into some actual football gaming here. First offensive play of the game. What is the first called offensive play of the game?
Pass.
Okay, I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go run. I like it. All right, first, the brand of the first commercial played during actual gameplay.
Company brand or just?
Yep. What company brand is going to have the first commercial played during gameplay of the game?
Lexus.
I like it. I'm going to go with the tried and true one of there's some variation of Budweiser, right? Whether that's Budweiser, Bud Light, an Anheuser-Busch type of commercial. That's where I'm going for that first one.
Automobile. I guarantee it. I think last year was Audi, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you might be right on that one. Let's go ahead and talk on the player with the first reception. Who you got coming down with the first catch of the game?
I'm going to say it is Joe Mixon.
Oh, you took a sneaky one on me there because that was where I think I was going to go.
I have the Bengals winning, and their first thing's going to be a pass. I think it's just it's a simple little swing pass, right? Okay. Nothing crazy. Get Burrow in a rhythm. Like I'm just trying to work myself into the mindset of this, right? They're not going deep. Figuring Ramsey's going to be on Chase that first play. We're not going to force that one in there just yet. So my rationale behind it.
I like it. Like that was a lot of where I was going there as well, right? Thinking that the Rams end up winning the coin toss, make the Bengals take the ball in the first half here. And I was thinking that it was going to be a check down to Joe Mixon there, but I'm going to pivot on this one again. I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd. Again, right. The short little pass, same type of thing that you're talking about there. Get him in a rhythm. And I think that's where we're going to see is just a short little pass to Tyler Boyd there. First score of the game. You see in a touchdown, a field goal, or a safety happening?
Touchdown.
All right. I'll take a field goal there. All right. Jersey of the player to score the first touchdown. Is it going to be odd or is it going to be even?
Even.
Okay, I'll take the odd one. I like this shaping up. We're gonna be opposite end of the spectrums here, so should be a lot of fun. All right, team that's ahead after the first quarter. Who you got?
Rams.
I'm also going Rams there as well. Team that is ahead after the second quarter.
Rams again.
Yep, I'm going that way as well. First coach that is to throw a challenge.
McVay.
Okay, same. I'm going to go with McVay there as well. Team that leads after the third quarter.
Tie.
I like that. You actually called the tie, I believe it was 2 years ago when we did this, when it was the Chiefs and the 49ers playing, and you called the tie at the half and ended up hitting that one. So I like it. I'm going to go with the Bengals, though. I do think that they have found a way to come back. They are very heavily a third quarter team and a second half team there. That leads us down to, is there a score in the last 2 minutes?
Of the game or the half?
Game.
Yes.
Okay, I'm also going to say the same. Last team to punt the ball of the game.
The Rams.
I also am going with the Rams. Do you see an onside kick happening?
I do not.
I'm going to also say no on that one. Highest scoring half, first half, second half, or you have both halves have the same score.
Oh, good Lord. The payout on that one has to be a little bit bigger than the 50-50 odds you get everywhere else.
Right?
The second half is the higher scoring half.
Agreed. Winner of the Super Bowl.
Remy's.
Yeah, I think I've got to go with you as well on that one. That was one I did go back and forth on, but I think you're right. I think that the Rams end up pulling that one out. So, color of the Gatorade shower.
Yellow.
Okay, I'm going to go with orange. Player with the most receiving yards of the game.
I think the Rams are going to win. They're going to be drinking orange Gatorade. You don't think that's a little superstitious?
No, I think that's I could see something like that going on there.
Fair enough.
Like you want to rub it in. Like that's a good way to rub it in.
Oh, geez.
I thought forever about going with yellow or blue, and I'm like, nope, we're just going with orange.
Fair enough.
All right, player with the most receiving yards in the game.
Cup.
I've also got to go with Cup. Player with the most rushing yards in the game.
Mixon.
Yeah.
I almost went Joe Burrow.
I could make a narrative where that could happen. But I'm gonna also go with Mixon there too. Does a quarterback have over 276 and a half passing yards?
Yes.
I
Both
think
quarterbacks over unders right now are Burrows is at 180 and Stafford's is at 188, or excuse me, 280 and 288. So the fact that Vegas doesn't typically get too far off from these, and if you're getting that, 4 or 12 bonus yards, if you will, I'm going to say over this one right here.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and just change that one there. If what do you want to make that over under?
Oh, you want to change it? Oh, well, we're going to change it now. My rationale was too good.
Too good.
I think 279 and a half.
Okay. I was going to put it at 280. So let's go with 279 and a half on that one. Does that change your answer?
No, I still think one of the quarterbacks gets over.
Okay. All righty. So we'll go ahead and go with that and leave it at 279. I'm thinking we do see somebody touch that 280 mark. So I'll go over with you. Let's go ahead and head on through into the spread there. Like you said, the Rams favored by 4.5, Bengals getting 4.5. What are your thoughts on this one?
I like the Bengals to cover, as I alluded to at the beginning of the show. I think this is a field goal game.
I like it. I think you're right there as well. I think this one's ultimately going to come down to who has the ball last on this one. So let's go ahead and head to the number of field goals. Do you see over under 3.5?
I'm going to say under. 4 field goals in a game seems, not that it's impossible. It just seems hefty.
It does. I'm going to go with the under as well. Points total over under 48.5. What are your thoughts here?
Under. I want to say over because that's what everybody wants to see, right? We want to see these guys get out and score points, but the way the Bengals have made second half adjustments and generally how this Rams team plays, they're only giving up about 20 and a half points per game. As close as I think that is, I'm going to say the under.
Yeah. This one here, it has the feel to me of like a 21-24 type of game. Even a 22-25. Like I don't see this thing getting to the over. And same thing that you just alluded to, right? The Rams have played good defense. The Bengals have done an exceptional job on the defensive end there as well. So I think this is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game than what everybody is anticipating. And I'm going to be right there with you on the under 48.5. I think this one's going to play out 21-24, 20-23, somewhere right in that realm of possibilities. So it's how I see that one playing out. Last question, Super Bowl MVP. Who you got?
Matthew Stafford.
I could see that one. And I think that's ultimately where I'm going to go, as I'm also going to go with Matthew Stafford there. But it is awfully tempting to go with an Aaron Donald on that one. Just because of, where things lie.
To be a defensive tackle, though, like I think Aaron Donald would have to have either 4 sacks or a touchdown.
Yep. That's where I was thinking as well.
That's not really his MO as far as scoring the touchdowns. He disrupts, he creates havoc, he sacks the quarterback, but he doesn't typically strip sack and then go run it in. So right. I do think that's the one thing that kind of makes me lean away from Aaron Donald.
Yes, I agree with that, but it would be fun to see a defensive player win that thing instead of it just being that kind of automatic, whoever the quarterback of the winning team is.
Last time fun was in the Super Bowl we did.
That's very true. And in that one, it had to be because that was not much offense going in that one. The Broncos. If only we could get back there again. All right, let's go ahead and move on to some DFS type of play here, right? Like we've got a DFS game going on FanDuel, and you can hop in with us, play with the boys, all that kind of good stuff. Just shoot us a DM, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We'll go ahead and shoot you the invite, and you can go ahead and hop in and get that one going. This one here being a little bit of a different game than what we've played in the past because of the fact that it's a same game. It's a 1-game deal. And so, Kevin, let's go ahead and go through this one, and not going to necessarily talk about who we're going to select for our MVP. We'll save that one and let that be a mystery guess there. But let's go ahead and talk about just a flex player. Who do you have that's a player for your flex type of position in here that you're counting on some sneaky upside with?
I'm going to go back to the well and say T. Higgins here. I just there's obvious plays here that I'm sure we'll touch on, but I just feel like T. Higgins is going to have himself a ball game, and even if it's 97 and a touchdown, I mean he doesn't even have to hit 100 yards, right? But he fits that bill of being a good flex play if he finds the end zone. And as we stated earlier, when we were talking in a previous segment, I think he does. So I'm going to say T. Higgins is going to be my first flex play.
I like it. I do like that one a lot. I'm going to go ahead and lean towards a guy that I think has that sneaky upside, and I've mentioned him more than once already this show, but I think that's Tyler Boyd, who right now is going for about $8,500 on that lineup set there. So he's going to be an undervalued type of guy that I think is going to return on that value there and will be able to do some big things for you, because I think that he's going to probably see, when I was kind of going through some of my own predictions, things like that, I ultimately see him getting about five 5 receptions in this one and getting right about 55, 60 yards in that realm right there. So a guy that has some sneaky upside, has some sneaky play for me to try and bring some things home there. And with an $8,500 price tag allows me to spend up in other places out there. So I'm going to absolutely do that when I can. So that's where I kind of like it. Kevin, any other thoughts here on some DFS type of tips, tricks, anything like that for the listeners and viewers out there?
Another guy, as far as, if you're doing doing what we're doing and having these flex plays, again, going back to Tyler Higbee, he's a cheaper option who has a relatively good chance of finding the end zone, as Matt Stafford and Sean McVay have been using him lately in the offense. So a way to save some value and getting some value with the potential score. I think for me, it's going to be, how can I fit both quarterbacks into this lineup? And really capture everything. I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of rushing going on. I think they want to try to, but ultimately it's hasn't been the Rams' strongest suit here in the playoffs. They've been playing very sound defensively and very opportunistically offensively. So Cam Akers for me is likely out. Joe Mixon is the other obvious play there if you're talking running back. So if you're looking to get a running back in there, he's probably the guy that I'm leaning to. But realistically, I'm looking to find a way to fit both quarterbacks in and then branch out from there. See what I can get as far as pass catchers to surround them and support that. Maybe get that sweet stack like the Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis stack I had a couple weeks ago when the Bills played the Chiefs and I dominated our divisional round setup their contest that we ran that week.
Yeah, I like that one. There's a lot of guys out there that have some sneaky upside, like you said, Tyler Higbee. Van Jefferson's another guy. Like if he ends up going, like that one could be a sneaky deal because Van Jefferson's can be a big play kind of guy there and can get loose and break one off there to the point where it's not uncommon for Van Jefferson to go 3 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. Like that's very much in his wheelhouse and in the realms of possibilities there. So that's another one that I kind of like there and I kind of like seeing there. So let's go ahead and head on into the last segment that we've got for the night. And that's going to be talking about a question that you posed the other episode where it was, is Derrick Henry the next Frank Gore? And really kind of what you were talking about there is, does he have the longevity that we've seen from a Frank Gore type of player where you see these guys play late into their careers, be very productive at a high level, even past the normal window that most running backs fall off, which, as we know, tends to be right around about that age 30. But Derrick Henry very quickly approaching that age. And that's kind of where that question stemmed from as you were looking at potentially drafting him in an Empire League that you were starting up there and going through that. So I'll go ahead and defer to you on the question, is Derrick Henry the next Frank Gore?
So I think in a lot of aspects he is. Derrick Henry is a guy who, didn't get the wheels run off of him at Alabama. He was used quite a bit, but didn't get beat into the ground. He came into the league, and his first couple years into the league, the Titans didn't really use him a whole lot, right? Like you saved some of that mileage, and now you're seeing what he has been doing these last couple seasons. Yes, I know he was on IR for a stint this year, but guys, we have to remember that was not a soft tissue injury. It was not a ligament issue. It was a broken bone. And science tells us when bones, heal, they heal back actually stronger than what they were before. So at the level that he's currently at, no. But we saw Frank Gore digress, if you will, as he got older. But I do think that the workout mindset, the physical conditioning, all the nutritionists that Derrick Henry has around him, and for all appearances and things that I've been able to find and see, just the love of the game, I think Derrick Henry plays well into his 30s. And does he play until, 41, 42, like Frank Gore did? That's a big stretch, right? That's another 12, 13 years in the league. And I don't know that we're going to see to that extent. So maybe I need to back off of that a little bit. But I do think that Derrick Henry has another 5 seasons of premium fantasy value. And then you will start to see the slowdown and the regression come and everything else. But 5 years in fantasy football is an eternity. So, for all intents and purposes, yes, I do. It might be closer to how AP did it, right? I mean, there's another guy who kind of defied the laws of nature, has played well into his 30s, and played well in areas. In other areas, he's looked his age, just nature of the business. But I think Derrick Henry can do that. Like, he is just a physical specimen and has zero injury history whatsoever. He's a guy that continues to get stronger as the game goes along. You don't hear of him sitting out practices because he's dinged up here or nursing an injury here or anything like that. So all the signs are there for him to continue at a high level for a longer time than I think what most people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you said there. Frank Gore, currently 38 years old, and this was the first year that we hadn't seen him in the league. Adrian Peterson, currently 36, and you saw both of those guys be productive. Now, Adrian Peterson, like you just said, certainly kind of showed his age this last year. When he got in on some game time type of things, like it was not anything near what we remembered. But even 2 years ago, Adrian Peterson still played well. Going through those things, Frank Gore still playing well. Right up there to the point where these guys were playing well. 4 to 5 years after that traditional fall off that we see happen with a lot of running backs there. And I think you're right. Because when you look at the guys that have done it, right? Herschel Walker is another one. Eric Dickerson was another one that played late in there and had a ton of mileage put on their bodies there. And when you see those types of guys, they're built very similar, right? They're not the scat bats. They're not the, they're what you consider kind of that traditional thumper that goes through there. Guys that can take the ball straight up the middle. They're built a little bit differently, and they're all built on those, those frames that are right around 6 feet tall, 220 plus pounds, of just, going at you type of thing. And Derrick Henry, while he's taller and bigger than that, the ratios are going to be similar to that one as well, right? Because he's 6'3", 250 type of deal. So, while it's one of those that when you see that, I think you're right. I think that he will ultimately play well past that age 30 mark, right? Like most of the times anymore, when we see running backs get into their second contract, teams are starting to try and figure out, how in the world do I get out from underneath this contract? Because they're not living up to necessarily those buku bucks that they got paid out on a second contract deal. And I don't see that happening with Derrick Henry. I see him playing well into this second contract and potentially even in a third contract, which, we typically just don't see anymore. Used to be very, very often that you would see a running back go through and have a 10, 12 year career at the position. And anymore, if a running back gets about 8 years in the league, that seems to be kind of the max on that one. So I could see him playing more so like we saw the old school running backs go, instead of what we've seen a lot of running backs do recently. So yeah, I think you're right. I think he probably plays well up until he's probably about 33, 34 years old. And then you'll really start seeing that the mileage start kind of creeping up there. The recovery not being able to happen near as quickly as what it's been. But it's one that I'm looking forward to seeing him play well into this next season and beyond that as well. So any other thoughts on this one?
No, I think the one thing that might change Henry's mindset, right, is when he starts to lose that step, right? Because he has an incredibly high gear for someone who is just south of 250 pounds at 6'3", has the rare ability to run over you or around you, and can truly do whatever he chooses to do at that moment. Um, so I do think that that might be a thing. Another thing is how the teams perceive him, right? Like some guys play because they love the game. Some guys play because they need the paycheck at the end of the day, right? And some of the history behind AP and everything else, part of it was he needed a paycheck. Like he was not as financially savvy as I'm sure he would like to have been if he could go back and do it all over. But are they willing to play for that? $3 million, $4 million a year, as opposed to the 8-9 million a year that he's making right now, and just that is a mindset. The same amount of work for a third of the cash. A lot of people may not feel like that wear and tear on their bodies worth it. So definitely some variables that we need to think of in today's game. That back when the Herschel Walker types were playing, right? You didn't ever think about the contract and the salary side of things and everything else. These guys think about that now.
Right.
They're just conditioned to think slightly differently. So there's definitely some caveats, but overall, I think we get to see another, like I said, 5, 6, maybe even 7 years of at least Derrick Henry on a field.
Right. Well, and that was one of those too. And you're talking about some of those older backs, things like that. Like the game was played completely differently back then too, because it was a run first league. It wasn't the pass first league that we've seen happen really over the last 10 to 15 years. It was one of those that the offense ran through the running back, and if you didn't pick up if it wasn't second and short, or if it wasn't third and short, that was where the quarterback started throwing the ball type of thing. Instead of where we've seen a lot more run and gun, and we've seen a lot more passing on all downs really throughout that, and the use of analytics throughout that as well. So it's certainly changed how the game is played, and certainly changed how these running backs are used, and that also I think has had a difference in some of the longevity of what we see on these running backs there as well. So very cool. Well, Kevin, I do believe that that's going to take us down here to the end of it. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers or listeners?
Enjoy the game. Have some folks over. Enjoy your time. If you're a football fanatic, and you have a vested interest, don't feel bad about watching the game by yourself. Like that's okay too. But if you don't have a dog in the fight like myself, have some folks over. Go hang out with some folks. Have some fun with it. There's a lot of fun games that you can play during the Super Bowl. I know one year I was with a group of friends, and everybody tossed, I don't know, $5-10 in a hat. And every single play, every time the ball snapped, you pass the hat clockwise. And if there was a turnover on the play, then it went counterclockwise. And then every time there was a score, whoever held the hat got the cash. Like something simple, right? But it's just, again, fun ways to make the game entertaining because the commercials nowadays kind of suck. But hey, the halftime show should be pretty cool this year. So those of you in our age demographic, maybe slightly above, maybe slightly under, but definitely close to our age, should really enjoy seeing the artists at halftime. And I think it'll probably be one of the more enjoyable halftimes that I've seen in probably the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment 100%. The other thing that you can do if you're looking to have some fun with this thing is I know a website. It's called goodoldboysff.com. They've got a Super Bowl prop bet up there. Fun little sheet. You can fill it out. You can follow it along with it. And doing some of those things, like I found when I do some of these things, even if they're just for fun, that there's not anything on the line with it or anything like that, is the fact that I am more vested in what's going on with the game, more invested in what's going on with all the other festivities surrounding the game there as well. So always a lot of fun. Super Bowl squares, I'm sure those will be coming out here soon, and a lot of folks enjoy that. That's always a lot of fun. So there's a lot of ways that you can go out there and have a lot of fun with this, even if you don't necessarily, watch football for the football. There's always a fun group atmosphere that you can bring to this this event, and always a blast to do that. So guys, go over to goodoldboysff.com, click on that Super Bowl props. It's under the games and more section over there. Fill it out, play along with us. It'll be a blast there. We'll go ahead and get all of those things filled out there and send out the recaps to everybody, all of that good stuff. And we'll announce who won that thing and played along with us next week when we go live again. So always appreciate seeing everybody tuning in the chats, all of that. Thank you very much for watching that. Do us a favor, head over to youtube.com, Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast, and click the subscribe button, ring that bell, get the notifications for when we go live. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe.